Hey there, welcome to saas.unbound podcast. I'm your host, I'm Nadeina, head of growth at saas.group, serial acquirer buying wonderful SaaS businesses to take them to the next level. And here I chat with inspiring founders and experts to get an inside scoop on how they made their business a success. So today with me is Matthew, now a CEO of ImprovMX, the fastest and best mail forwarding plugin and service, according to someone on G2. And it's also a business that actually we already did a podcast about with its amazing founder and my dear friend Antoine Menou. So today we're going to talk about the acquisition, how you got the company and what your plans are for the future. So welcome.
Awesome. Thank you. That was quite an introduction. Yeah, my name is Matthew, Matthew Tse, and I'm now the very proud owner of ImprovMX.com. We are just a email forwarding SaaS, and we focus on really simple email forwarding, making the experience as easy as possible, and just set it and forget it. And I'm super excited to be running this company.
Yeah, and we met in New York, and that was pretty amazing because we every time I'm in Hamburg for our events with SaaS Group, we meet with Antoine. It's always a great conversation. I thought, oh my God, I will use this opportunity to invite you in New York to see what you think about the business. And obviously, I know a little bit of the story, but first, I'd like you to maybe start with your background. How you got to do this and how you actually got the idea of acquiring the company in the first place.
Sure. Yeah. So my background is just software engineer in tech. So site reliability engineer, operations, reliability. I worked as an SRE at Google for a while, and then was at a startup, was at self-driving car startup, and I for the last 4 years I was at a quant fund in New York City, just doing reliability work, mostly as an individual contributor, but sometimes a manager. And I just got tired of working for people. That's really what it was. I mean, there's a thousand reasons you could be an entrepreneur, but that was the biggest one. I just wanted to wake up to my own schedule, eat what I hunt, like rather than just kind of doing a thing that someone else told me to do and plodding along. I really wanted to bet and lever in on my own abilities. And so that kind of just led me to explore the ideas of entrepreneurship. And at first, I was really excited about uh, indie hacking, bootstrapping, building some small side app and not doing the whole VC funded route. And I guess going into how I got into acquiring, it's because those first things really failed. I launched a few micro apps that I couldn't even make a single dollar. And it's like kind of quite demoralizing to go from like very storied career in site reliability engineering and working for all the top companies, and then I go become an entrepreneur and I can't even sell a dollar, right? And I think I was watching My First Million, which is one of my favorite podcasts, and some person on there was talking about how he bought his e-commerce company and then scaled it to millions of dollars, and he bought it for like $200,000 or something, a reasonable sum. And that's where the idea came into my head that maybe I could do this too. And that's on the path to looking at a lot of different companies and eventually finding ImprovMX. So that's kind of how I ended up here.
That's awesome. All right. See, podcasts work. Like, there's so
Yeah,
much good.
they do. I've learned, I mean, literally podcasts have changed my life. I would not be doing what I'm doing now if not for podcasts. Yes.
Interesting. All right. What, if you can share, what were their ideas that you were working on before?
Oh, one of them was a tax estimation software. So I had this problem where every tax year, it's weird, you're not a US citizen, but in the US government, as you make higher and higher incomes, the amount they withhold for your taxes actually diverges from how much you owe, sometimes by a lot, like five or even six figures. So if you don't basically keep track of your own tax liability and pay estimates to catch up that amount, then you'll owe thousands of dollars in penalties by the end of the year. And you'd think that if I just like have a simple situation, like I work for Google, that they would just withhold the right amount and I would just be fine. But that's not the case. It's just like legally by law, they're required to withhold the incorrect amount. It's quite
Oh
funny.
wow.
So I made
Okay.
an app to like, because I just had this spreadsheet that like tracked my own income, and I basically had a model that modeled my tax liability over the years because I didn't want to pay this penalty, and I made an app out of this, like a web app. I thought it was super useful, and I found a few friends who thought it was kind of cool, and that's about it. I couldn't get anyone else to even touch the thing.
Okay. Oh, I mean,
Yeah.
it sounds, and again, like you said, I'm not a US citizen, but everything I hear about US taxes is
Mm.
pretty horrible. So
Yeah,
I
it
can
is.
totally feel how this could be very useful for a lot of people. But then it's, I guess it's B2C, and then just
There's a
with
no man's land. There's a no man's land. Basically, there's
yeah,
people in which the difference is too small for them to matter. Because, like, let's say you're only $1,000 off, then you don't care, right? Like, if you have a lower income, right? So that's a lot of people. And then you've got people who are making a lot of money, in which case they need like a professional accountant to keep everything in track. And then I'm in this no man's land where I weirdly want to keep track of it myself. And there are very few other people like me in this world.
yeah,
So
very
it was one of
interesting.
those like wrong, yeah, it's like I thought it was awesome, but no one else does.
I think your market could be, nomads and expats because, you
But they're not
know,
in the US. They're not in the US.
no, no,
So
no, yeah,
that's the problem.
it would have to be like a whole lot of different taxes in there. But I can totally see how I could use it because, as you know, I roam the world a little bit. And every
Yeah.
time you go to a new country, you're like, oh my God, I need a new lawyer and a new tax person. And, you
Yes.
know,
Yes. Well, now ChatGPT can probably do most of that for you, or if not, soon.
true, yes, it can do this, but then it will also tell you maybe get a lawyer, like not a lawyer. So
Yeah.
so yeah, I can totally see the problem there. All right, so cool. ImprovMX. Maybe you can tell me a little bit about why this because it's not let's say it's not the most exciting thing that you can be
That's what excites
building.
me about it. That's what
All right.
it excites me that it's not exciting.
Okay. So
Um,
what were you looking for?
yeah, so I was sold on this idea of like boring old stable companies. So basically, I the whole ethos of wanting to do a bootstrap SaaS company as opposed to a VC backed like hyper growth startup is that I wanted something that was a lifestyle business. Like I wanted something that I wanted to put myself into, but I didn't want it to be a 8 year slog where I'm working 80 hours a week and under constant stress and pressure. I don't want that. Like I'm enjoying my life a lot right now and I want to continue enjoying it. And I want to work hard, but just not that hard. I don't think that I don't think that that stress is worth it. So going along that ethos, the idea of like a boring, stable SaaS is like right in there, right? I want to find something that's old and unsexy, so it's not like it's constantly being disrupted by AI or new entrants in the field, very niche, set it and forget it, that type of thing. So, yeah, the fact that it's like email infrastructure, which sounds super boring, actually made it exciting to me for those reasons.
Okay. All right. Where were you looking for a thing like that? Was it, maybe LinkedIn, maybe some personal connections, or something like acquire.com, Flip, or whatever?
This one was lucky. So I had spent a lot of time in the 6 months prior to acquiring ImprovMX looking at Flippa, acquire.com, and also quietlight.com, which is my favorite one. And a lot of the SaaSes did not fit the bill that I was describing, where they were like too small, too commoditized, too recent, shady numbers, everything. And ImprovMX came up through Quiet Light just luckily at the end of the 6 months. And then I just like saw it and kind of knew and I really pounced on it, made a very good offer and moved forward with it 100%. But if that hadn't happened, I think I had already started to, but I would have done more of just cold outreach of like finding websites and SaaSes that I liked just from the surface of, and then just reach out. Hey, like you built a great product. Can I pay you money to stop working? Right. And
That's
I
a good
think
offer.
that I made a few of those out, but I think second time around when I buy a new company, like company number two, I want to build a bit of a holding company. I think I'll have a much stronger offer given all my experience and podcasts like this where people can kind of see that I'm a earnest buyer, basically.
So I'm interviewing a potential competitor in the future. Let's wrap it up. Let's,
Yeah,
oh no.
yes, that's kind of true, actually. I mean, you could potentially be acquiring my company, or I could be acquiring a company that you're bidding on. So either client or competitor, you'll never know.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, always with this kind of interviews when it's kind of almost a competitor. I feel like, the market is big enough and the there's just so many things to account for that
Yes,
you can never bet that we always will be the best choice for every founder in whatever, terms we're looking at. So,
right.
totally fine with that. And yeah, okay. So I always talk here also about, and just in general at SaaS Group, uh, that's kind of the case. We talk about seller due diligence and
Yeah.
well, buyer due diligence as well. And about buyer due diligence, I'll probably talk to Antoine because he's coming on the podcast soon too. But what about you? Like, what were you looking at? Maybe the metrics, maybe the founder himself, the team, the history of the company. What what was important for you to give a valuation and to
Yeah.
also understand that okay, it doesn't just look cool on the outside, but it works, and this is something you can bet on.
Yeah. So actually, I thought about this a lot. So basically, in the few months prior to acquiring ImprovMX, I was looking at like 1,000 plus listings. So I looked at a lot of them, and I submitted some bids on some, and I talked to a lot of different founders, and I realized that like the prices are kind of fair. The market prices are generally fair. Even if a seller puts something up for lower than it should be, then they'll instantly get like 10 bids and then they'll raise the price, right? So I feel like if somebody's going to come in and just buy a SaaS based purely on the numbers as if it's like a real estate transaction, I feel like that's just kind of a middling returns or maybe even get into trouble type of situation. I think there needs to be a edge or synergy between the founder and the company you're buying. So in my case, I've realized over time that I'm really bad at selling something from 0 to 1, as the case from my failed products, which I couldn't even sell for $1. But I had a hypothesis that if I have something that's kind of working, I'm very good at iterative improvement, which is the case for ImprovMX, where we have great SEO, great reputation, great everything, and I just need to make it better. And I hypothesized that I'd be able to come in and do that. Okay. So it's kind of like learning sales and distribution by swimming in the shallow end of the pool rather than being dumped right into deep end. So that's where one synergy that I needed, right? And the one synergy that I provided is that I realized that I'm a very good engineer. Like I already knew that from a like employment perspective, but then from a as I started building these apps and analyzing them, I just realized that I can launch something in like a weekend or a week. And also any application that's very technically complex, it doesn't scare me, right? I just realized that whatever it is, I can kind of figure it out based off my decades plus experience, just touching so many different aspects of engineering. So ImprovMX is a very complex, technically complex, like B2B SaaS based off 1990s internet infrastructure, right? Most people don't want to touch that stuff with a 10-foot pole, but that actually made it kind of attractive to me because it's kind of like this is what I do. I do reliability with boring APIs and things like that. So the weakness of the business, its technical complexity, was my strength, and the strength of the business, its great reputation, organic growth, and high customer stickiness, that was my weakness. And so there was a perfect match there on a business perspective. And then from a founder perspective, Antoine Sorel, that they just are of utmost integrity. I could tell that from the first call with them. unless they're total sociopaths and they're able to like trick me. But so far they haven't, cashed that in. So I think my view has been correct that just the first time I met them over video, I just really intrinsically trusted them. And from then I tried to mirror that to the utmost. Like every single point throughout the acquisition, like either party has many different ways to screw the other party over, I think, all the way up to the end. It's kind of like getting married. And I just, whenever there was a choice, I always did the thing that seemed fair and that, or even seemed more generous. And they kind of did the same thing. So as the acquisition went forward, I actually became more and more confident in my purchase. There was never a cold feet moment for me, actually. Like just as it went on, I became more and more certain this was the right thing to do, which I didn't expect actually. I kind of expected, I always heard there's always like you know, the one day before you're going to like doubt whether you should be doing this. That never happened to me. Never happened to me.
That's so cool. Yeah, awesome. All right. Yeah, this was one of the other things that I wanted to ask you because,
Yeah.
in your case, I guess the kind of the post acquisition and the transition period was fairly quick, but still, it's there, and uh, we also at SaaS Group always emphasize that, yeah, the company can be great and the team can be great, but it's the person that built it that you're going to work with and, who's going to walk you through the entire process of getting
Yes.
it in your hands. And if
Yes.
you cannot really trust them or you cannot really stand the way they're communicating, I mean, this is a bad deal. And you're just going to make
Yes.
it so much harder for yourself.
Yes.
So that's so
Yeah.
good.
You really need, yeah, like even let's say I'm the best engineer in the world, I really need just some knowledge transfer from the prior owner and just having that goodwill. Like even now, I still have a direct line to Cyril whenever I have technical questions, and I try very hard to very much respect his time and his effort when he does this. Mostly, I only send him nowadays questions that I think he might be curious about, like, oh, I'm doing this like deep change into this bit of infrastructure that you wrote 10 years ago, and I think it's going to improve our reliability by 50%. Like, I thought you'd be curious, right? And I'll send him that, but I very rarely like ask him for like, oh, things are on fire, like I need help because it's my job, right? I inherited this, I bought this, and so um, and also it's important for me to get full independence in that regard.
Yeah, absolutely. What was the most unexpected thing in the process? Like, I don't know, maybe the amount of actual paperwork or, how long it takes or anything, maybe the complexity, something that you
Mm.
haven't really estimated.
Yeah, I actually never mentioned this to Anton and Cyril, so I guess if they're going to watch this, they'll find out. But I found that you do an initial agreement on the price in general terms. And then there's the asset purchase agreement where you actually sign that thing. Like first you have a letter of intent where you agree on general terms, and then you spend weeks with lawyers to get an asset purchase agreement. I found the lawyers negotiating over the APA, that was like a second tough negotiation to have, where like we've already agreed on all the general terms, and now our lawyers just fighting on the smallest, minutest details. And that was kind of surprising because everything else was generally very smooth. But when two lawyers on opposing sides that, they have opposing interests, right? It's kind of expected that they would fight over the small details, I guess. That was unexpected to me, and next time I'll be more aware of that.
All right, but it hasn't affected your, I don't know, relationship with the founding team or,
No, for sure, not with the founders, but with lawyers in general, yes. I'm cautious about lawyers because you don't always want to listen to them.
Okay, interesting. Did you also
Yeah.
have maybe a broker or M&A advisor who would walk you through the process and what you're looking at in this situation?
Yes and no. So Centurca, they do due diligence for e-commerce's, online businesses, SaaS's, and I paid them for financial due diligence, which was like, I don't know, $7,000 or something, and they just looked at the spreadsheet and compared it with Stripe revenue and tax returns and told me things look fine. So I think actually next time I'll just save that. And so, but that was it. They only touched the financials and just told me that it was fine, but there's nothing further about the like the agreement and the APA and all that stuff. I mean, I had a lawyer for the APA, I guess, so I had different people who kind of did subsets, but no general person that was walking me through the whole process. Um, Although there was one also nice thing where Centurca had this like quick deal review where you pay $200 to have them look at a listing with you. And I had this guy at Centurica who I have a little bit of, I paid him for three of these, and we have a bit of a rapport. And so when I showed him, I actually showed him a deal a week before, and he was like, "This is good for you. You should go for this." I'd be very surprised if you found something better. And a week later, I found ImprovMX, and I was like, "I found something better." And and he was really good for just giving me the psychological security that, like, yes, you're taking a risk, you're doing something you've never done before, but given the strength of this listing and given your strengths as the founder, I believe that I mean, we don't give advice, but if I were to give you advice, I would say that this is a thing you should go for. And that gave me a lot of confidence.
That's interesting. And as much as we say it can be done just by a founder, and we try to make it as easy and simple for the founders selling to us as possible, I think that thing that you just mentioned about just kind of having someone on your side, just kind of
Mm.
like guiding you, hand holding you a little bit, is so important. And yeah, I would I would totally recommend founders just to get somebody as an advisor, just for the peace of mind.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I think I didn't have somebody who was like the whole process, but I had people that I talked to during different parts of it, and I certainly have far more people now that I could ask for advice, and I think that's important too, because this is just stuff that you have never done and it's not common, so it's hard to look up what's the right thing to do, and sometimes you just want to gut check of am I crazy or not, and that helps a lot.
Okay, that's awesome. All right, so I want to ask you about the multiples and how you come up with it, and also the deal structure, and also like in this case, why did you think that a shorter or maybe transition period was a good way to go, or maybe it was again something that you looked up previously.
Okay. Yes. So I guess you might have talked to Antoine, but we had a very short window where from LOI to close was 30 days or something like that, or maybe even shorter than that. And this is also 30 days right before the New Year's. So that's a very fast close window. And the reason why I offered that was because having submitted some offers before and having watched a crap load of podcasts about this, I knew what signals to present in order to make a very earnest, powerful offer. So those signals are like all cash, quick close, minimal, like no or minimal earnout, all the things that uh, make your deal very strong and indicate that, listen, I'm going to be a good buyer, right? And even though I'd never been a buyer, for over time, I got the experience that I knew this. So I offered a very quick close because I knew that the most important part of this due diligence, so the buyer is who the due diligence is for, right? So I am incentivized to have it longer or whatever and make it good for me. But the only part that's critical about this due diligence is the technical due diligence, right? Because the domain authority reputation, I can search that online. Somebody's going to look at the financial books. That should be fine. It's all just Stripe revenue, nothing crazy there. So the technical due diligence is the only part uh, that is important, and I'm going to be doing that. So, and also I know that whatever the code is, if need, I can rewrite it from scratch. And so, as long as it's fine, then I'm fine with that. So that's how I knew that this could be a fast close. And in fact, the parts that we're waiting most for are just the lawyers putting the APA and the lawyers arguing over the APA. That was the biggest thing. But if it was like from a technical perspective, I probably could have done it in 2 weeks. Um,
Okay. All right.
yes.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. Also, just in this particular deal, because it's bootstrapped, it's a two people team basically, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's just a bit of an easier deal. But
Yeah.
what about the multiple? How did you come up with it?
Yeah, that's part of why the Centurica quick deal review was useful because Flightlight posted a multiple, and then I offered somewhere around there, and Centurica said, yes, that's about in line, considering other B2B SaaSes and other things in this category, this price range, everything. And so basically, I took that multiple as a baseline that quietly confirmed is fine. And then I applied my own, like, do I value this more or less? And then just up it or down it a little bit. And but at the time, it was very confusing to me why a laundromat sells for 2x, whereas a e-commerce sells for 3x, and why a SaaS sells for 5x. It's very confusing to me. I have no idea why, but now I understand why. Just as a business owner, the quality and how easy it is to maintain and grow revenue is what matters. And for a stable, continually growing SaaS that's very sticky and technically complex, very few competitors because it's so niche, I feel all those benefits right now. Like as I'm running the company, and I feel why the multiple is worth higher for this company than it would be for something else. So I guess that's, does that answer your question?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I'm just wondering, because you went through well, quite a few listings on Acquire and Flippa and
Yes.
Flightlight. What was, have you seen any like trends? What is SaaS being sold for right now? What is the kind of the average multiple that you see there?
I mean, things change dramatically. So I've been out of the market for 5 months now. But as of late 2024, I was seeing that commodity SaaSes are selling for less than 3x multiple, 2 to 3x. So anything where there are a trillion competitors and this is just some upstart, which those are selling for 2 to 3x because they can disappear just as fast as they can appear. And I don't think they're even worth 2 to 3x. And when you have something that has like a little bit more lasting power, a little bit more niche, it can be like 3.5 to 4x. And then higher quality SaaS is like stuff that uh, has quite a brand reputation, has like 10 plus years in the business. They can go for like 5x or plus. So that's kind of what I saw. That's what I saw in the market.
Yeah, that
And
makes
this
sense.
is just for on the low range. Like I think when you get to 8, 9, 10x, uh that's usually like a strategic acquisition and not an
Mhm.
economic acquisition. And those are usually not in the price ranges you'd find on Quiet Light or
Yeah.
Acquire.com.
Yeah. Oh, no, absolutely. All right. So I want to ask you about the transition period and just what
Yeah.
you see uh, going into the business because, well, you guys announced it. And also, I want to ask you why, because a lot of founders choose not to.
Mm.
But do you see any dip in growth once you acquired it, or it's still smooth sailing? People are kind of like, okay, it's sold, it's still fine, it's sticky, we're happy with it, let's roll. What's happening with it?
Yes, that I thought about that a lot before I acquired it. I spent days crafting a blog post and a special email announcement and all this stuff because I was wondering, like, maybe I'll announce this and then everybody will just leave en masse or something. And that was a real fear of mine. And then after having done it, I realized that honestly, most people don't care. Honestly, most customers, whether they're enterprise or small or tiny, they don't care that you're acquired unless it affects them. Like if it was acquired by some giant PE firm that seems like they're gonna jack up the prices, then yes, they would care. Or if it's acquired by someone that they think is totally incompetent, in which it's kind of hard to create that to it's actually kind of hard to be someone who comes in and no one knows about you and then let people know that you're totally incompetent. That's actually kind of hard. So I came in and tried my very best to be extremely competent, and nobody cared at all. I did get a lot of initial emails in the first few days. They were mostly either congratulations or people asking for job offers or people wondering if the free plan is still going to stay. I got like one, literally one or two out of hundreds of emails that were like, "Oh, you're now a U.S. capitalist pig, and we're moving off of you." But those people were like free plan customers anyway, so they they weren't gonna pay me any money anyway.
Oh wow, that's yeah. We're in pain.
Yeah.
We're not paying to to a capitalist. What?
Yeah. We're not paying. We're not paying a capitalist. Yeah, or like the United States GDPR. They're concerned about snooping and stuff. Those kind of, I guess, like people. A few of them complained, but none of them were paying customers. Like anyone who's a paying customer, I think they understand that more money and success in the company actually means a better product for them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So, what is the plan now? Are you growing the team? Is it just you? Are you still figuring it out? What's the roadmap? What are you excited about with the
Yeah.
prospect?
So I hired a junior dev, and I actually, upon the acquisition, there were two technical support people, and then Cyril was handling the entire tech stack himself. And I spent quite a lot of time, like maybe a month or two, of like making our infrastructure so that more than one person can contribute. So granting tiered access to GitHub and different ways to deploy stuff and communication over Slack and also like a task tracker. We use Linear. And I spent a lot of time setting this stuff up so that people can contribute. So I transformed one of the technical support guys into a junior dev. He actually has a CS engineering degree. And then I hired another junior dev, and they've just been contributing pull requests. And so that's been great. And I've also been making massive improvements to the infrastructure, front end, back end, reliability, everything. And I'm actually soon looking for another hire, like a senior dev, to come on board and really help me build big new features and also offload some of the like operations stuff so I can focus on growth and high level product decision and stuff like that.
Interesting. Are you planning to maybe, start building your brand as well? Because you said that you want maybe to build a holding. And I feel like it's just a little bit easier if people, like you said, know a little bit about you. So is there a plan to, yeah, do a bit of like a founder branding?
Yeah. I haven't yet. I think like you're right. That's probably good, but I think I'm actually naturally not a person who does that, who like I don't have much of an Instagram or LinkedIn or Twitter, and I don't find it natural to actually want to post there very regularly. I consume it and I connect with people. So maybe sometime in the future, but right now the company is growing well enough without a personal brand. And in fact, I think if I tied my brand too closely with the growth of the company, that would actually make it more difficult to sell or hand off in the future, right?
Yeah.
So I'm actually focusing most of my efforts from an entrepreneur perspective on just growing the company, like improving the landing page, figuring out who our target customers are and better targeting them, experimenting with some paid ads in the future, and building new features that people want and improving the reliability. So all these like small iterative improvement things, which I really like and I'm really good at, I'm just learning so much about it and continuing to do all that stuff. And it's paying well, or I mean, these small changes are positively impacting growth, and I think they'll be impacting growth even more as they start to kind of compound on each other over time.
Yeah, that sounds great. All right. So just a couple more questions.
Yeah,
What is the kind of the biggest lesson learned in this acquisition?
let's see. I mean, I touched on it earlier, which is that you should spend a lot of time to really do an internal search of who you are as an entrepreneur. I think that's like super, super important for every entrepreneur. I think that as I was looking for companies to buy, which could have also been spent looking for companies to found, right? I think more of the work there was actually an internal search of like figuring out what am I actually good at and what am I trash at. And it's not necessarily obvious, right? Like just because I'm an engineer doesn't actually necessarily mean that I'm a really good entrepreneur engineer. And just because I might be someone who works in consulting doesn't necessarily mean I would be good at sales. And I think that actually launching some things and failing at them, it really becomes clear. And when that becomes clear, then you can kind of find a business that like matches your strengths and weaknesses as well. And I think that that just makes it so much easier as an entrepreneur because like just on a day-to-day running ImprovMX, it requires technical brilliance, right, to work well, and that's I find that fun, and I can do it in my sleep, right? And whereas the part that is really hard for me, like selling something from scratch, ImprovMX is doing well with that. So just on a day-to-day running basis, I feel great. I just feel so great running this company, and part of that is just that it matches me really well. I think if I had found a company that for example, required a lot of hand-holding enterprise sales. I mean, we're starting to do that now, but it's an inbound basis rather than like going out and seeking those calls. I'd probably kind of hate my life right now. Yeah.
All right.
I do enterprise calls like every like a few times a week, but it's people asking me for quotes rather than me going out and trying to convince people to buy my product.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's amazing. I think that's another alignment that we discovered. It should be a founder or a CEO to business alignment. Like, if you don't like to do it, like, why buy? Why? We've
Yeah.
made, I think, a couple of acquisitions where we weren't sure we're the right fit, and we
Mm.
weren't, and we're very transparent about it. And it's just
So who does
like
the operations like after you acquire them?
So we keep the companies as they were, right? So basically,
Hmm.
it's either the founder that
Space on.
stays after
Hmm.
the acquisition,
Hmm.
or we have another CEO coming
I see.
to
I
take
see.
over. But it's usually the same team, the same kind of vibe, and
Hmm.
just the way they were, but a little better with us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So the last question is always about a hack, and it can be anything. Literally, like it can be something that being a solo founder, choosing the right business to go after, product roadmap, anything that works, and you think other founders could appreciate.
Hmm. The only thing I found was really fun. I had this idea from my first million because again I think for his e-commerce he had a little phone notification where every single time he sold one of these products, his phone would go ka-ching and then it'd just be ka-chinging all day. And I didn't know how to do that with Stripe, and I didn't feel, that I wanted to do it that much. But I did create a little like, the emoji where there's the smiley face and dollar signs as his mouth and says like money vomiting out. I put that next to every single time a new subscriber subscribes, like just that emoji, and had it sent into our Slack. And I check that thing every day, and every time I see that, it makes me smile. Like I think little ways to introduce silly happiness into your life because entrepreneurship doesn't need to be all so serious. I think that that keeps things light and lighthearted. I think that's important.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. I feel like, just the way you talked about the entire acquisition, how you approach this process and everything, it's just that what you just said, like just making it a little bit easier, making sure you are aligned with the idea and
Yeah.
with whatever you choose to work on. And I think it's so important. Like my, you know, one of my favorite things to say is unclench. Like,
Mm,
you have to let go because there is so much shit that you cannot control that if you
yeah.
don't necessarily work on the fun stuff, the
Yeah.
good stuff
Yeah.
to bring you
Yeah.
happiness, it's just going to be way too much.
Yeah,
That's
like I mean, if you look at me, like I look healthy, right? Like I'm, as despite like being 6+ months after an acquisition, I'm actually quite healthy, sleeping well, very happy. And I've had overnight things, like just working all night, but usually it wasn't because, actually, it's never been because there was some kind of downtime. It's more because I'm just really excited about like optimizing our auto scaling groups or something, and it's going really well, and I just want to get it done. I can't sleep, right? So I've had like all-nighters with this company, but it's doing an all-nighter that it's a thing that I honestly enjoy, right? Like I love optimizing infrastructure. It's just so weird that I love that. And so yeah, I found a company that kind of matches that. And so even the hard times, it's fun for me. So yeah,
Sounds
it's been
perfect.
just a lighthearted thing. I haven't had that moment where I'm like kind of crying at my kitchen table. Like I don't know, that hasn't hit me yet. Maybe it will, and I'm just kind of calm before the storm and it never hit. But so far, it's been
You're still
just
on the
great.
high.
It's been great.
Cool. All right. I love the vibe. And yeah, so thank you so much for sharing the story. Hearing it from you and just knowing your side of the story, it makes me feel really good, to be honest, about the entire
Yeah.
deal and how it went for both parties. So
Yes.
yeah,
Yes. Yeah. So I'm looking really forward to that with Antoine as well. That'll be fun. That'll be really fun.
yeah, yeah. We'll do. Yeah. So about that, we are planning to do like a joint session with Matthew and Antoine, just to kind of have a conversation about this as well, and maybe dig a little deeper into the entire process.
Yes, that'll be wonderful.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here. This is live very soon, and I hope we get to do it again sometime.
Awesome. Have a good night.
Thank you, and take care.